Welcome to UnJustified, where we always cover the truth, the facts, the good, the bad, the ugly, on an unbiased and sometimes very unpopular opinion. If you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe now and hit the notification bell, and that way you will receive all of our upcoming videos. Thank you so much for being here, and we do hope you enjoy today's video. Good morning, everyone. Great way to start your Tuesday morning.
Good morning, guys.
Skankers Ball Part 2. There's no way we could get through this skank with one episode. Even though it was nearly 3 hours, this skank deserves all the exposure we can give her, right?
Amen.
And not to mention, we are very, very adamant on deep diving cases, as much as possible. So we thought, what the hell, we'll do it together, right?
Yes, ma'am. Hey, Vintage Art. Hey, McJ.
Mini
Mini
Moons.
Moons.
Tony.
We're both going at the same time.
Right. Great to see you all tonight. We got 16 night owls in here. What about that? 16. And what'd y'all have, like 30 minutes? 30 minutes.
Hey, they like to hang with us when we all can't sleep.
That's right. All of us insomniacs talking about the skanks. And boy, this is one hell of a skank. Did any of y'all get a chance to watch the interview that we uploaded sometime this morning? I set it on upload, and then my internet was at a cross, so I just went to bed. And when I got up, it was uploaded, and they had already, been several that watched it. Wednesday watched it. Wednesday Murder. Hey, Lone Wolf. Yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. That interview was given to him. What was it, Dave, Nelly? Like at 4 years after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a lot of us picked up, and it was even in the comments, some people picked it up. Welcome, Adrian. Where Paul actually said his last name was Teal, right? We picked that up quick because that's what we do. And it was like, wait a minute, that's what Karla changed her name to after she was released. And so we were talking about it, and it's like, okay, how does this work? How does this work? Like, he's AKA Paul Bernardo, but yet he was arrested. Newspaper clips from when he was little, he was Paul Bernardo. His parents are Paul Bernardo. So how is he AKA? So we didn't have an answer, especially with Karla getting out after she had already divorced him and changing her last name to the same thing he was using as a last name, right? So we were like, we couldn't get it. We just couldn't figure it out. Like, what the hell's going on? She was even being tried and everything under Homolka, right? Well, she was married to Paul. So why wasn't she Carla Bernardo? But she wasn't. So Dave made a good point. He said, what in the hell have they both got two names for? And so in the clips we're going to watch tonight, it mentions that last name and why he has that last name. And yeah, that's right. It was a movie. I can't remember which movie either, Wednesday. It was a movie. I know Kevin Bacon was in it, and we'll hear which movie it is. It says which movie. I don't remember. But it was about a criminal, a serial killer or something like that, and he changed his name to that person. And ironically enough, oddly enough, however you want to say it, Karla, when she got out, used the same last name. Like, what's up with that? Is that some kind of what's up with that? And Paul still thinks he's going to get out of jail, right? He still believes that. So I don't see that he's ever going to get out. I don't even think he deserves his minimum security that he was placed in. What was it, Dave? Like, I don't know, recently, wasn't it? He was just moved like within the last week or two.
Something like a week or a month. I can't remember.
Yeah. And he don't deserve that.
And it makes me nervous because they might move him some more.
Right. I mean, hell, he could be close. I mean, is he, I don't even know. He could be even closer to where you're at now. I don't know.
Oh, no. He's still in Ontario, so.
Oh, okay.
That's what. To drive it'd be like a day and, 2 hours?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're closer to Chris Watts than you are to him, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, you're closer to Chris Watts than I am. And probably Nelly, too.
No kidding.
That's on the other side of the world for me. But yeah, they got the name Till came from a movie. I can't remember what it was either, but Kevin Bacon was in it. I don't think I've ever watched it, but I love Kevin Bacon. Like, always have. From the time I was like 13 and Footloose was on, I was like, yep, that's my man. And I don't know if y'all saw him lately, but oh my God. Have y'all?
Really? Yeah, him and his wife have a TikTok channel.
They do.
They're on there singing all the time.
I love it, but God, Kevin aged, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I mean, he don't really look different per se. He's still skitty and all that, but damn, he really did age. But you know what? He's doing it gracefully. He's not getting all these facelifts, which, in my opinion, I'm not a fan of. I'm scared to even do Botox because I'm afraid it'll paralyze the nerves in my face. Like, I don't know.
I know, right? No kidding. That's freaky.
Yeah, look how beautiful Dolly always was, right? And Priscilla Presley. I mean, they don't even look like the same person anymore.
Mm-mm.
Kenny Rogers did it. They just, I don't know.
That was a nasty mess with him.
Oh, goodness. Well, my favorite Christmas show, the National Lampoon's Vacation, right? The mom in that show.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you should look at her today. She does not look like the same person whatsoever. I mean, not even close. She has had all that stuff done too, and literally does not look like the same person. Because last Christmas, they had this reunion and there was lots of pictures because I'm members of several of those groups because I love that. That's my favorite Christmas show, right? Ever. I don't watch anything sad or none of that kind of stuff. So that's my favorite. And I was like, oh my God, who is that? And I'm zooming it up and it was her. What was her name? Is it Meredith or something like that? I can't think of her real name. The mom, anyway. She literally looks nothing like she did, like not even the same person. And I don't know. It's just crazy. Priscilla Presley's another one that gets me because I love,
but
everybody knows.
Look at, what is it, Jamie Lee Curtis? She hasn't changed at all.
Jamie, some of them just gracefully, and to me, it looks better because you know what? Hands don't lie, right? Oh. Hands don't lie. And for the most part, necks don't lie, arms don't lie. And if you will look at all these people that's had all this done to their face, notice they're always wearing long sleeves. They have shirts way up, where you can't see their necks. It's just, why? Just, I don't know. And I don't even know where I've got with this. But
well, you notice the difference between Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. Goldie had a bunch of work done, and she just butt ugly, right? And then you got Kurt Russell that never did anything.
Yeah, and he's just gracefully, and he looks just like he always did, except obviously older.
Yeah, gray hair.
Yeah, he's just obviously older. And these people that's doing all this to their face, it's really sad, to be quite honest. It's just not the same person. And again,
Cox don't look the same either. The chick from Friends.
She don't. See, I haven't even looked at her. Now, Jennifer Aniston is gorgeous, beautiful. And the chick don't age, right? I don't know if she's doing anything. If she is, it's something minor because you really can't tell. A Madonna, oh my God, what in the hell did she do? You know?
I don't know. She's
wow. They do many moons, do they not? Men age so much better than women. Why? Because I don't get it. They're out in the sun. They usually do that, that more outsidey kind of stuff for the sun and the wind and all that. And still, it's like the older they get, the better they get. The better looking they get. I don't know how else to say it. They age wonderfully. Madonna is scary. Yes, she is. It's
very scary.
Super different. Wow. Johnny Depp, not a big fan. Myself, Nelly is. Nelly's a fan of Johnny Depp, but personally, I'm not. Yeah, she is. She is.
I don't like some of the things that he's said and done, but I love his movies. Pirates of the Caribbean are probably some of my favorite.
Really? God, as far as celebs, I would have to say, and I know y'all are going to be like, what? Tommy Lee Jones. That's my guy.
Yeah, I like him too.
Tommy Lee Jones. And God, what is that guy's name that played Denzel Washington? Yes, like him too.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Hanks. That's mine. But I really love Tommy Lee Jones.
I like Kevin Costner too.
Yeah.
Actually, Tom Hanks was here for a football game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I love Tom Hanks's acting, but I'm telling you, Tommy Lee Jones, oh man. I don't know what it is, but I'm crazy about him. And of course, Kevin Bacon. Evan Peters. Who is that? I can't place who that is. I just don't know. Who is that? Adam Sandler. Love Adam Sandler too. I had a friend, it was a female actually, looked just like Adam Sandler, and I know you're thinking, no way. No, she literally did. I always told her, you look like Adam Sandler in drag. She's like, thank you. She does though, really. Quicksilver, I'll have to check him out.
Evan Peters is in like American Horror Story and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. I also like the guy in Bones. Booth. I can't think of his name either. He was also in the vampire movie, Interview with the Vampire. Isn't that what it was? I can't think of this. The guy in Bones. The TV sitcom Bones. Oh, girl.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Her name's Temperance in the movie, and I love that name too. But yeah, his name's Bone. It's in the movie Bones. I don't know his name, but in the movie, his name's Booth. He's like a detective, and I think it was an Interview with the Vampire. I think he is pretty damn awesome too. Beverly D'Angelo. Second comment that disappeared, huh? I don't
talking
know.
about that guy. He was like in that. He was in David.
There's one.
Are you talking about David Borzan?
Yes.
Yeah. Like he played in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and
yes,
Angel and all that.
Yes, I like him too.
I had to think of his name. I was like, I know who she's talking about.
Yeah. My daughter-in-law is all about the guy that played Lucifer. Have y'all watched that series?
Yes.
I didn't care for it, but I didn't, but she loved it. She's like watched it over and over. I was like, I don't really care for it.
And like the way it ended, I thought it was stupid.
Yeah. I thought it was funny though when they were doing like the musicals.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Me and my husband liked it the first few seasons, and then after that it got pretty retarded. So we were like, okay, no.
Right. Nelly and Dave's the one that told me, and I was like, oh my God. So yeah, guess what? New episodes of Justified. Yes.
When?
They're already out there. They're already got like, I don't know, 6 or 7. Yes, ma'am.
How did I miss that?
I know. I did too. I've got to watch them. I haven't watched them either. I was like, oh my God. I just thought about that today. Got to watch those. When I was trying to find the lost tapes on this case, I saw it and I was like, oh God, I gotta watch it. Courtney Cox is from Alabama. She actually went to school with a friend of mine.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, the chick from Friends.
Yeah, she very pretty. Okay, y'all. Before we came on here, we said we're just gonna talk chit chat for like 10 minutes and then we'll get into it because we don't want to be here. Well, we don't want to watch the sunrise together, do we? So, guess we can go ahead and get started on these clips. Interesting. I hope that y'all are getting something out of this case. It's a powerful case. We was talking earlier thinking, is it ever going to be reinvestigated because of these cold cases and because of the unsolved ones, that obviously I fully believe they're responsible for. And at that point, Carla could be going back to prison. Dave says he doesn't think it'll ever happen. And of course, he knows Canadian laws much better than I do. But it would be nice if it would happen because I believe there's many out there that deserve justice that they both had a hand in doing as well. But Dave says he just doesn't see it happening on account of the money.
And that's one of the biggest things about this case is they were complaining about the money. Was it $3 million? Well, I guess that'd be, who knows, $20 million when that actually happened.
Yeah.
$20 million today. But the thing is how, like I was telling you before, how do you put a dollar amount on somebody's life? And we really don't know how many people they actually did this to. And same with him. We'll never know.
No, we won't. I mean, he really has nothing to lose by talking now. Like, he really don't. But in his mind, since he does have that possibility of parole over 4 years or something, he's definitely in his mind, he believes he's going to get out. He's already said that. And I feel like it's a possibility that him and Carla is still in contact because she did change her last name when she was released to his last name, his assumed last name. I hope it does too, Mac J. And you know what? It could. I mean, they're still in the news. Let's be honest, right? They are still in the news. They're still relevant. Just recently, well, he was in the news last week, and I think they were talking about was it parole and his being moved. But I mean, they're still relevant and definitely relevant to anybody that she happens to be living near. So, and who knows where in the hell she's living. I believe that should be known. Like, she was charged with manslaughter, no SA charges. And somebody asked me in a comment, why do you say SA and not the words? And I'm like, and I can say it now in case they listen again. It's because YouTube literally has bots and they look for words not only in the comment section. Usually in the comment section, if they catch them, they just automatically delete them. But if they hear anyone on panel saying these words, a lot of times they'll either flag you, strike you, or just take down the whole video, entirely, because you've went against community standards. So that's why we use abbreviations a lot, unless I slip up and don't, but I always try to. And I don't know, not only that, definitely not Skankers' fault. This is not a series to watch with children. Really, probably nothing we do is, but maybe on the breaking news channel, maybe sometimes, but not here. It's not good to watch with children at all. Okay. All right. I can't believe they moved him either. Minimum security.
Mm-mm.
Like, he deserves that. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. I mean, just the clips you're going to see tonight is going to piss you off even more. Did any of you think about this case today? Like did it get you to wanting to know more about it? Or it did me, you know. But that's what I do. If I ever get into one thing, I'm full blown into it. But let's see. Okay, yes. See, we're not the only ones, y'all. Look at there. There were several people thinking about the case today.
Good deal.
See, I'm glad to know that, because it lets me know that what we do and what we put together up here and bring to you guys isn't just, you know, giving us something to do. It actually makes, you know, people think and want to know more and even research it, look for movies, get the books, you know. I had one comment that they went and bought the book, you know, that we put the link to, and that's great. It's one of the most disturbing cases I've ever heard. It truly is, for many reasons. Many reasons. Like these two, seriously, if you was walking in the mall and you passed these two, would you truly think that's what they're about? I mean, it's kind of scary to me to even look at Carla, because, I mean, I hate to be honest, but she looks a hell of a lot like me when I was in that same decade. That's crazy, but she does. And I know that decade we all had the same hair and you know, clothes and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. It's not her face, like right up in the face. But other than that, I'm telling you, we look a lot alike.
Yeah.
It's awkward. You know, when that stuff happened with Peterson, you know, again, that's a different era, different hairstyles, all that kind of thing. But when that happened to him, Scott Peterson, Amber Fry, you know, I had somebody come up to me at a Mexican restaurant that I was sitting at, because I noticed they had been staring at me forever, and they came up to me and she said, "I'm sorry if I know, you know, I've been staring at you, but you have an uncanny resemblance to Amber Fry." I was like, "Oh, well, thank you, I guess." You know, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Very
Dang.
weird. Yeah, it was kind of weird. And I mean, I have nothing against Amber. Amber is great in my opinion, but it was kind of weird, really. Okay, I'm going to shut up now because I talk too much.
We always get sidetracked.
We do.
Know that.
Yeah.
We go from a wide range of subjects.
I like Amber Fry too. I really do. She's great. I mean,
yes, she was.
I don't even know how in the hell NK ever even thought she would compare. Not a comparison in the world.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, crazy. All right, y'all. Let me throw this up here, and let's see what this skank has to offer tonight. Okay, here we go.
Was arrested.
The system's broken. It's completely broken.
This is video that the police took as they ripped apart walls, floors, furniture. They were recording what they considered to be a thorough investigation. They thought they knew what to look for. Homolka, who at this point is negotiating her deal, was slowly releasing information to the police about where to find certain evidence, like blood and vomit stains. These are shots of the upstairs bathroom. Overhead was evidence that would have sealed the police's case. The 6 videotapes showing the crimes against Mahaffey and French were hidden behind the light. Checking it should have been standard police procedure. It wasn't done. The police only found out about the tapes 16 months later.
People jeer Paul Bernardo, now a convicted murderer.
Kill him. Kill him.
You should get rid of him. Kill him.
Public hanging. String him up. Showing no emotion in court, Bernardo turned and faced the jury as the verdict. Couple brutally raped and tortured the girls, videotaping it all for his sexual pleasure. It was powerful evidence, and the jury believed Homolka's story that Bernardo strangled the teenagers. She's serving 12 years for her role in the sex slaying. Your daughter has been served. As Carla's family left court, they were heckled but pleased with the verdict. Bernardo's lawyer, John Rosen, wasn't so happy and intends to appeal. Watching when Bernardo strangled both girls with one of these black electrical cords found by police in Bernardo's basement. Bernardo's trial provided the first public airing of Homolka's deal with the Crown. In July of 1993, was videotaped by the Bernardos. Both teenagers were shown being raped and degraded by Bernardo and Homolka. In some scenes, Bernardo is beating the terrified and sobbing girls. For days, the court was stunned by the horrifying sounds of Mahaffey and French pleading and screaming while being subjected to unspeakable cruelty. Only the jurors, the judge, and the lawyers were allowed to see the terrible scenes. The public was permitted to hear the audio. When Homolka took the stand, she testified she was physically, sexually, and emotionally abused by Bernardo. She told the court of helping him drug and rape her younger sister Tammy at Christmas 1990. She said Bernardo wanted Tammy as a present. Tammy choked on her own vomit and died a short time after the attack, which was also videotaped. The trial reached the height of its drama when Bernardo took the stand in his own defense. His demeanor was icy. He showed no remorse as he clinically described his despicable crimes, calling his teenage victims props for sex. Spectators applauded and jeered as Bernardo was shipped off to jail. Justice Patrick Lesage told Bernardo his sentence was life imprisonment with no eligibility for parole for 25 years.
Will never be given a sentence that will be justified for what he's done.
And nowhere wasn't the man who fathered him. Ken Bernardo now says he has an awful feeling their son is going to die in prison.
For 3 years.
I don't care what the police say. I don't care what the Ministry of the Attorney General says. Serial rapists are very rare creatures.
Toronto police released this composite drawing of the serial rapist. It was a dead ringer for Paul Bernardo. At that time, police had been told by several sources, including a former girlfriend, that Bernardo had an appetite for violent sex. They took a sample of his DNA, but the sample wasn't analyzed.
1991, when Leslie Mahaffey vanished from outside her Burlington home in the early morning hours. On June 29th, her body parts were found encased in concrete blocks in a lake near St. Catharines. The same day, Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka were married in a lavish fairy tale.
Okay, I want to say something about this. Just a second. I want to kick in here. Leslie Mahaffey. Imagine how her parents have literally beat themselves up over and over, because you know how he got her. Her parents actually, and it was a good family. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't think that they weren't, but they had locked her out of the house because they had warned her she was late coming in for her curfew a few times. So they had warned her, you do it again and you're going to spend the night outside, whatever. So they had locked her out of the house that night, and she was late again with her curfew. So they locked the door and they went to bed, right? They told her they were going to do that. But can you just imagine how much they beat themselves to death for that,
But they said she usually did knock. And for whatever reason, that night she didn't knock.
Yeah. Either she didn't, they didn't hear, I don't know. But how many times do you think that they've blamed themselves so bad for that?
I'm sure plenty.
I mean, can you just imagine being her parents and being like, oh my God, why did we do that? Like, she's 10, 15 minutes late with her curfew, and we locked the door and went to bed, and this is what happened. I mean, I thought about that a lot today too. Like, being a mother, being a grandmother, and, and I'm not putting anything on them because it's damn sure not their fault. It was a way of tough love, right? But I just can't imagine their pain, and they're blaming themselves. I'm very empathetic, and that, I don't know, that just got me. Got me. It hit me in a hell of a place, especially, and you'll see in the clip, her parents, you'll see on up in here. I just can't imagine what it done to them,
Ceremony. They appeared happy and without a care. This is videotape of their honeymoon in Hawaii.
Here's my husband.
My first mate.
My Hawaii.
I finally get my first wife.
Several honeymoons before us.
1992-93, Paul Bernardo was arrested at his St. Catharines home. When police went inside, they found the Bernardos appeared to have it all. Every room was fully furnished, from the master bedroom where the victims died to Bernardo's workshop where Mahafi's body was dismembered with a power saw. This was what the house looked like when police were through searching. Officers spent weeks ripping the home apart for evidence. What they didn't find were the crucial videotapes. Bernardo testified they were hidden in a light fixture in the upstairs bathroom. 3 months later, the unemployed accountant was charged in connection with the teenager's death. The key witness against Bernardo was his ex-wife, Homolka. Homolka testified she was in the room watching when Bernardo strangled both girls with one of these black electrical cords found by police in Bernardo's basement. Bernardo's trial provided the first public airing of Homolka's deal with the Crown. In July of 1993, she pleaded guilty to manslaughter for her role in the girl's death and is serving a 12-year sentence. What set the case apart was that the ordeal of the victims was videotaped by the Bernardos. Both teenagers were shown being raped and degraded by Bernardo and Homolka. In some scenes, Bernardo is beating the terrified and sobbing girl. With jurors, the judge and the lawyers were allowed to see the terrible scenes. The public was permitted to hear the audio. When Homolka took the stand, she testified she was physically, sexually, and emotionally abused by Bernardo. She told the court of helping him drug and rape her younger sister Tammy at Christmas 1990. She said Bernardo wanted Tammy as a present. Tammy choked on her own vomit and died a short time after the attack, which was also videotaped. The trial reached the height of its drama when Bernardo took the stand in his own defense. His demeanor was icy. He showed no remorse as he clinically described his despicable crimes, calling his teenage victims props for sex.
Great strength from her. We feel she's looking down on us, not only just us, but everybody. There isn't a minute goes by that you don't think of her during the day or the evening or what have you.
I feel a great sense of relief, but until we really know more about what's going on, I can't really say anything at this. I don't really want to say anything at this time.
Once the judicial process starts, then the whole focus centers on the accused. And I think it's time that we remember the devastation and the destruction that's left behind with these families that have to cope.
We feel it would be inappropriate and impossible to speak how we feel at this moment. The intensity of the overwhelming pain and strong emotions have once again swept us and rendering it impossible for us to adequately talk about the verdict, the death of Leslie, and what this moment really means to us. Only the trial is over. Leslie is still not coming home.
Finally today, with the guilty verdict, especially the guilty verdict for first-degree murder of our daughter, there is some sort of closure. Well, it can't return our daughter to us. We have the satisfaction of seeing this perpetrator punished. Now we would appreciate the opportunity to have some privacy for a period of time to come to terms with our feelings. After a time of reflection, we will be willing to speak to you all further. Finally, and as always, our final words for our daughter. with the trial over, Christy, you can't be hurt anymore. We love you.
Heartbreaking.
To be more than just one of the guys. But could never imagine becoming anything better than what one of the guys would consider pretty great. A party animal, a big nut, picking up girls in Florida. Yes, that's the little girl. Anything can be made to look foreboding and ominous. She stayed with him through all that, stubbornly, relentlessly, playing house, no matter what was really going on in the real world. There was somewhere serious. It's right there. There's something. That the victims were swallowed up for such absurd, banal fantasies. A fantasy world you might find hilarious if it wasn't so tragic.
The tapes. Now, A, who in the right mind, unless you're a total perverted freak, would want to view those tapes anyway? That's just insane. Those things should be locked up in a vault or burned or something, because no one should see that. I feel sorry for anybody that would want to see that. And if you do, there's a place like this down the street on Yonge Street, 25-cent peep show. You can get all kinds of that stuff, okay? So you don't need to try. Why would you want to see someone suffer? It doesn't make any sense, all right? If you want to, you're just as sick and twisted as Bernardo and just deranged.
Why is he getting 25 years and not 2 consecutive sentences?
Very simple. You can only get one life to live. And
so you can go out and kill 15 people and only spend 25 years.
No, you can only spend one life in jail. All right, and you may die there. The sentence is life imprisonment. Nobody should ever forget that. That's what he's sentenced.
Yeah, but the sentence is life, no chance parole for 25 years.
That's right. You can't.
So it's conceivable the guy could be in there for 100 years.
Oh, sure, if he wants to live that long. I mean, I can't imagine anybody would want to live that long in Kingston Penitentiary. But
want to live
after
that
25
long? Like
years,
you
make an application. That doesn't guarantee any success. There will be people like Mr. DeVilliers and other friends who will be down there.
Welcome, kids.
To make the application against him getting parole, and God bless them for that if that's their position and strongly held. I don't have any problem with that.
There were people critical.
Well, I understand, all the coverage during the trial, and I was watching it too. My husband wouldn't watch it; he was very upset by it. But as a woman and a potential victim, I was interested as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that now we're all playing into this media frenzy.
Okay, listen to this caller, y'all. Tell me she's not going to remind you a whole lot of the people that we still deal with today that come at us for still covering cases that shouldn't be covered anymore. Or, we're doing it for the money, or we're doing it. Okay, look at how many viewers we have. And plus, let me just tell you, YouTube is never going to monetize a Carla or hardly many true crime. They will not, and definitely not Carla Homolka and the things they've done, right? People will say, oh, it's for the money, they're this, it's for their entertainment, and blah. So listen to this lady, and you're going to see that back then, even back then before, YouTube or anything like that, media was catching hell from people. But I really like the other reporters' rebuttal to this caller.
By watching programs like this, and I know I can't turn away either. I'd like to be able to turn the TV off.
Do you think maybe we're venting a little bit? We have to know more about why this happened and maybe understand a little bit about ourselves as a society as a whole?
I think so, and I think that part of it is seeing as much as possible on Paul himself and just trying to understand. I just can't understand myself, but the problem is that I think that we've removed ourselves from Kristen and Leslie, and we've become desensitized, and the fact is that nothing can bring these girls back, and it's all the more horrific that we've turned it into almost entertainment by trying to study Paul. And
it had to be covered nonetheless, Karen. I thank you for calling in. I'm not trying to cut you off, but we do have to move along here. Ben, I think we all suffered some bruises on our psyche as a result of this thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go as far as saying this is entertainment. It's got to be covered. This is an important trial only because there was so much public interest in it. Long before Carla Homolka's trial, when Kristen French went missing. One of the things that is hard for a reporter is, and I don't know if others would agree with me here, a criminal trial isn't really about the victims. It's about the accused. Yeah. So it turns out about whether he's guilty or not. And yes, it is very hard to, I mean, you can't lose focus on Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. That just can't happen. But at times you are talking about his guilt or his innocence.
The focus shifts from the crime to the accused and the process he goes through. Christy, what do you think? Let me get over here with the microphone first of all.
Well, I mean, I think the last thing the media was, any of us were in this case was insensitive. I think none of us forgot about Kristen French or Leslie Mahaffey. I certainly didn't, and I don't think anybody did. This was a terrible thing, and every day you sat in that courtroom. I think it's important for people like our last caller to know this. Every day we sat in that courtroom, we thought of her. We sat right beside her parents, their parents, and we, I mean, our pain's a fraction. I'm not pretending it's anything but everybody felt awful. The defense lawyers felt lousy. I mean, the prosecution felt lousy. This was a terrible thing, and nobody forgot. I mean, this was the worst example that caller could have picked to say that this was entertainment. This was entertainment for nobody.
Nobody wanted this as entertainment.
Bottle of liquid anesthetic. Today, a sense of how dangerous that drug is in the hands of amateurs.
Are you still there, Kim? Looks like Nelly fell off.
Oh, I'm sorry. God, I was muted.
There you
I'm
are.
sorry. God, I was just sitting there talking. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Kez, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad, hon. I sure hope he gets to feeling better, and we will keep him in prayers. But I'm glad you were able to stop by and see us tonight. Yeah, and Dave, about that caller that we just listened to, is that not very familiar?
Every day.
Every day. And did you see how media just was like, okay, well, we gotta go. They just kind of brushed her to the side. And just like the reporters were saying, it's something that needs to be covered. It's something people needs to know what's going on. But it was kind of ironic to me listening to that caller, because I was like, wow, that's like almost in the very words of what we hear on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That's
see, even with this case here, it goes back to the watch too, where them two little girls, Bella and Cece, nobody really talks about them, just how cute they were, and that's it. And of course, about Bella's hair. But everybody forgets about them. They were actually
the oil tanks. You hear that a lot as well about how they were disposed of, which is horrific. But that's it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It really is, because there's more than one victim there. There's more than one victim here.
Mm-hmm.
And there again, the families are victims as well. I mean, they are. So it's nobody wins in things like these, and the public needs to know. Like, they need to know these things, like with Karla, they need to know that she's out there walking and she's a psychopath, in my opinion. And, she's, I believe she's got hyperstophilia, amongst numerous other things. All kinds of stuff's wrong with her, in my opinion. Her head ain't right, and she's walking.
Yeah, see, if they weren't reporting on it, we would never know that she got out, in the 12 years. She remarried. She had 3 kids. and everything else. We wouldn't have known that. And same thing with one of the ladies that reported to the school that what the heck is this woman doing here looking after children when she had done this to these other girls and even her own sister.
Exactly. People have a right to know. And in my opinion, NK, she's still walking and she's not innocent.
No.
So
no.
I mean, that's the thing. But there again, people gives you hell for reporting on it. At the same time, if they don't want to hear it, why are they watching it? Why are they listening to it? Flip to another channel or something. Don't take your time to come at somebody, because obviously there's many people out there interested in it, and your opinion is kind of, in the minority. So go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but yeah, when I heard that caller, I was like, oh my God, boy, isn't that familiar? Even back then, the reporters caught hell. So I don't feel so alone now,
From Dr. Raymond Matthews. The anesthetist had already seen the video of Paul and Carla apparently assaulting Tammy Homolka Christmas Eve 1990. He testified a cloth was being held over her face. Her neck was twisted. Her chin was close to her chest. According to the doctor, that probably made it difficult for her to breathe. The anesthetic, 4 times more potent than ether, a common anesthetic, made her vomit into her lungs. Earlier, a police constable testified he saw red marks on Tammy's face. At the time, they were written off as acid burns from her vomit. Police ruled Tammy died from natural causes. But Matthews testified neither vomit nor the anesthetic could have caused the burns. To make his point, he took a bottle of the anesthetic, poured it onto his hands, and put it on his face as if it were aftershave. Matthews said some other chemical on the cloth could have triggered a reaction, but he'll never know. Police allowed all the evidence removed from the Homolka home that night to be destroyed 3 months later. A forensic toxicologist described another drug, one that was found in the tissue of both Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. It's called Halcyon, a kind of sleeping pill. Empty drug bottles were found in the Bernardo home. The pills had been prescribed for Karla. Halcyon was also detected in a water-filled test tube that was found in the Bernardo home. Bernardo's lawyer asked whether the test tube looked like something you would find in a lab or a vet clinic. The answer was yes.
Pills before they died, and an expert testified an anesthetic given to Tammy Homolka may have helped cause her death. The Crown alleges Bernardo used Tammy's death to blackmail his ex-wife Karla into helping him rape and kill Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French.
Testified he conducted the special Halcyon tests on French's blood after police found a vial containing the drug in Paul Bernardo's home. Hall also told the court there were traces of 3 common cold medicines in French's system. Crown Attorney Sean Porter entered as evidence.
Are you muted again, Kimberly?
I think so.
Yes,
I thought it was
I
just
am.
on my end. I was like, are we?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I was talking to Megan. Megan, I haven't watched the movie yet. I want to watch the movie. I do, but seeing that I was going to deep dive this case for Skankers Ball, I decided to do the research in it first and deep dive it a little bit first before I watched the movie or the documentaries, because, we know how they are. Like, they're either based off of a true story or they're one-sided. So I like to kind of go into it first, kind of know what's going on before I hit those. But I'm definitely going to be watching those. I did read the book, but I haven't watched the things yet. I'm always censoring myself. Like, working all these different tabs, just kind of, I'm too squirrely for this.
prescription bottles made out to Carla Homolka and Carla Bernardo. Court was told 2 of the prescriptions were for Halcyon, the third, another type of sleeping pill. Porter also produced a large pharmaceutical directory, which was seized from the Bernardo's home. The most gruesome evidence of the day came from an American expert on bones that have been sawed. Dr. Stephen Sims told the court he's the only known expert in the field. Sims testified that a circular power saw was used to dismember Mahaffey's body. Sims said he made the conclusion after examining Mahaffey's bone fragments and noting the uniformity and width of the cut lines. Sims also told the court that sawing through bone with flesh on it would be a big mess. Dr. Ray Matthews is an expert in anesthetics. Matthews watched several frames of the videotape involving Tammy Homolka and a girl known as Jane Doe. Matthews testified the anesthetic halothane, allegedly administered to both girls, is highly potent and can cause vomiting. So far, no one has been able to explain the large red burn mark on Tammy Homolka's face. Matthews testified that neither halothane nor vomit could have caused the mark. Defense lawyer John Rosen suggested there may have been another chemical on the rag that was used to administer the halothane.
Stashed in the ceiling of the garage and handcuffs found inside the house. Police scoured the floors and walls of the home for blood or fingerprints of the slain teens, but all those tests were inconclusive. We also learned tonight Carla Homolka has been moved to the Metro West Detention Center, preparing to take the stand next Monday and meeting with Crown lawyers as recently as last night.
Constable Mike Kershaw was at the crime scene at Lake Gibson soon after the body parts of Leslie Mahaffey surfaced. He was the one responsible for looking for clues in the concrete blocks. He testified that by looking at the blocks, he could tell they were formed in concrete boxes. During examination under Alumilite, investigators found hairs, bone fragment, and skin and pore impressions in the blocks. Blocks that were crushed and examined tablespoon by tablespoon for more than 100 hours. 10 months later, Constable Kershaw testified he was summoned to another crime scene involving the abduction of a teenage girl. This time, it was Kristen French. Kershaw testified that he found a part of a fingerprint on a map in the parking lot of the Grace Lutheran Church. February 7th.
They truly went to extremes investigating this case. Did you hear what they said? Like, they busted up all this concrete and went through it by tablespoon. Like, gosh, they really investigated this case. You can't take anything away from their investigation here. I mean, it was thorough, and I mean, it would be nice if all cases were investigated to this point. I think it's sad that the cold cases, unsolved cases are still out there, but boy, isn't it weird that they did not find any fingerprints of those 2 girls in that house? Like, none. And they were in there for days. There was no fingerprints of them. That's crazy. But they did end up finding, of course, blood and hair and bone fragments. But I wonder how did they do that? I bet they had them handcuffed the entire time. You think? Had to.
Sure.
Had to.
1993, a suspect was arrested in the murders of the teenage girls. That suspect was the accused, Paul Bernardo. Within days, identification officers moved in on the Bernardo home. They videotaped and photographed every room, every piece of furniture, anything they saw as possible evidence in this case. Kershaw testified that during the search of the garage, a 6-inch knife fell from the rafters. He told the jury the police collected a silver serving tray, portions of carpet, a stained quilt, and hypodermic syringes. On closer examination, they found a pharmacological guide underneath the bed, an unused portion of beaver lumber concrete in the basement. Kershaw testified when they smashed through drywall in the master bedroom, they found an electrical receptacle that led to the upstairs bathroom. Kershaw told the jury they did 3 types of intensive fingerprint examinations in the house, 2 that required them to wear masks and protective suits. After scouring every inch of wall and surface in the house, investigators were able to identify 14 fingerprints.
all of which belonged to either Carla Homolka or Paul Bernardo.
The jury was also told that Bernardo's former lawyer went into the house after the search and collected a rubber mallet, champagne glasses, a hope chest, and a bottle of Giorgio perfume. Constable Kershaw was asked why the police did not retrieve the items, and he testified the police were not aware of the relevance until after they saw the videotapes. And use space-age chemicals. But a long, painstaking search of Paul Bernardo's St. Catharines, Ontario home in 1993 found neither sexually explicit videotapes nor fingerprints of two schoolgirls he's accused of raping and murdering. With more on today's testimony at the Bernardo trial in Toronto, CTV's Joy Malvin.
It looked like a scene out of a science fiction movie. Police, armed with the latest in high tech, searched Paul Bernardo's St. Catharines home 2 years ago. Detective Michael Kershaw testified police used lasers and chemicals to highlight fingerprints, but Kershaw said they found only 14 identifiable prints. When prosecutor Tom Atkinson asked, were any of those prints Kristen French's or Leslie Mahaffey's, Kershaw replied, no, sir. They belonged, he said, to the people who lived in the home, the Bernardos. Kershaw testified police did everything but tear down the house looking for clues, even taking a jackhammer to concrete floors, searching, Kershaw said, on their hands and knees, finding what appeared to be blood in 2 areas of the basement floor. Court never heard whose blood it was. The prosecution maintains Mahaffey was dismembered in Bernardo's basement with a power saw. The jury was told police found a knife, hypodermic needles, and a blue vial containing Halcyon, a powerful sleep-inducing drug discovered in the Bernardo home. During the 71-day investigation, Kershaw testified police did not find the videotapes, which the Crown says were turned over by Bernardo's former lawyer, Ken Murray, last fall. It's crucial evidence, prosecutors say, show Bernardo and Carla Homolka raping the schoolgirls. She was convicted of manslaughter in July of 1993 and sent to Kingston's prison for women. Homolka has been transferred to a Toronto detention center waiting to testify against her ex-husband. Her credibility is key in this trial. Prosecutors say she was a battered wife. The defense claims she sold out her husband in exchange for a lighter sentence.
My dearest Carla, it's been 5 days now, but it feels like a lifetime. Kind of like when Tammy died. I realize now you're never coming home. It kills me, bud. I love you. It was early 1993. Carla Homolka had left the house with raccoon-like bruise marks around her eyes. That was just a portion of a 45-minute tape. A monologue, a rambling, ranting, crying, sobbing plea for Carla to come back home. I'm holding your wedding picture looking at you. You're so beautiful. I let you down. I'm sorry, Car. I just tried too hard. I tried to be too macho, too domineering. I thought these were the qualities you need to be successful. I wish I made love to you staring at your face. I wish we had a kid. I smashed the flashlight over your head. It hurts a lot. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm not that bad of a guy. And then he says, you put me in jail, pal, and I'd still love you. From a cell much like one of these, Carla Homolka will be contemplating her testimony. It's anticipated she will talk about, among other things, a black electric cord that she claims was used to strangle both Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey after they were abducted and sexually assaulted on videotape.
The Paul Bernardo murder trial took a sharp turn today, shifting from gruesome videotapes and autopsy results to a rare look at the accused.
During an emotional and often melodramatic audio tape, Bernardo was heard sobbing, pleading for forgiveness, and threatening to kill himself. Global's crime specialist Sue Scambatti has more.
Paul Bernardo is heard to say that this was the happiest day of his life in an audio tape played to the jury. On the tape, he tells Carla Homolka, "We were a good team. We were the best team." Police found the 45-minute audio tape in Bernardo's music room when they searched his home for evidence. He repeatedly tells Homolka he loves her. "You're the most special person who touched my life, Carla. I love you more than Tammy." Throughout the tape, Bernardo is sobbing and pleading for Homolka to come back. He makes reference to being without her for 5 days. He says he is going to kill himself and go see Tammy. Then later he sobs, "Remember this, some things are worth dying for, and the only thing worth dying for is you, Carla." Bernardo says Homolka can throw his body in a ditch because she doesn't have much money. Bernardo says he could have messed you guys up, but chose this option, meaning suicide. Car, if you can ever forgive me for the terror and the hate and the pain that I've caused you, I'll be eternally grateful. Court has heard Homolka left Bernardo in January of 1993 after she suffered a vicious beating. Bernardo says, I smashed the flashlight against my own head. It hurt a lot. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Throughout the tape, music is heard in the background. At one point, Bernardo sings along with the Guns N' Roses song Patience, which was their wedding song. He calls Carla his snuggle bunny and says he is lonely and hurt and he misses her. Give me a second chance. Nothing can be over that fast. Nothing can go from total submissiveness to that's it. The judge told the jury that Carla Homolka will take the stand on Monday. She was moved this week from the Kingston Prison for Women to the Metro West Detention Center.
Lawyer at the time and a moving crew. They rounded up everything Bernardo wanted taken from the home. But even after the move was finished and the search by police was complete, the very thing prosecutors say Paul Bernardo used to kill his alleged victims was still inside the house. Lengths of black electrical cord. They were visible in a police video of the home lying on the basement floor beside a shop vac. Under cross-examination, Detective Constable Michael Kershaw admitted the cords were left behind. They only became significant, he said, when information came to light later.
From wedded bliss to this in just over 6 months. Prosecutors say Carla Homolka was badly beaten by Paul Bernardo, leaving him January 5th, 1993. Days later, a sobbing Bernardo threatens to kill himself on an audio tape. The jury heard Bernardo plead to his wife, "Some things are worth dying for." Words prosecutors say Homolka will testify a defiant Kristen French told Bernardo before being strangled. In a reference to the alleged beating, Bernardo says, "I smashed the flashlight against my own head. It hurts a lot. I'm sorry. You put me in jail, pal, and I still love you." Bernardo begs Homolka to come back, sobbing, crying, professing his love. "Car, if you can ever forgive me for the terror and the hate and the pain that I've caused you. I tried to be too macho, too domineering. My time's up. I'm going to see Tammy." Prosecutors say the couple drugged and raped Homolka's baby sister, Tammy. She died choking on her own vomit Christmas Eve, 1990. At one point, Bernardo laughed, listening to himself sing a love song to Carla. Debbie Mahaffey, the mother of one of the murdered girls, simply rolled her eyes and walked out.
Are you in the Christmas cheer? That's all I want to know. Yeah. You are? Are you sure?
They were stocking their video library. Tape the wedding, tape the rapes, tape Christmas at the in-laws, tape the unconscious sister of the newlyweds. The videotapes alert us to how viciously casual and eerily recreational was the manner in which these depravities were undertaken. It is not prurience to question whether the deal with Carla Homolka was a proper one. And it is no trampling on the common decencies or in any sense an insensitivity to 3 dead victims to ask for full access even to those noxious tapes in order to try to answer that question.
Paul Bernardo seemed to know his marriage was over for good. It was January 1993, a month before Bernardo was arrested for murder. He'd allegedly beaten his bride black and blue with a flashlight. Carla Homolka's parents had gone to the Bernardo home and physically dragged their daughter out. 5 days later, Bernardo recorded an audio tape. He begged Carla to come home. He threatened to commit suicide, saying he'd already slit one wrist. But the following week, Bernardo was still quite alive, so he recorded another tape. Once again, he's singing along to sappy love songs. Sometimes he turns up the volume on the music, a melodramatic crescendo as he wails in the background. "He's coming to get me now. The Grim Reaper's coming. No, no," Bernardo shrieks. "I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. I love you, Car. I'm too young to die." The mothers of the slain teenagers sat through the rant. Debbie Mahaffey collapsed in tears on a friend's shoulder. The tape went on with Paul sobbing. "I took the punches for you when my family said you were a slut. I left them. I know I was bad at the end, but I did some honorable things. I guess you just don't give second chances. I think I deserve one. And then he indicates that he will never get Karla in trouble. Police found the audio tapes during their 71-day search. Today, the Crown completed its cataloging of the evidence seized. Police found handcuffs. They found bottles of sleeping pills. They found a jar of liquid anesthetic. But police apparently found no concrete evidence Kristen French or Leslie Mahaffey were ever in the home. Police failed to find sexually explicit videotapes involving the teens, and they did not remove what the Crown has described as the murder weapon, black electrical cord, until months after their search was complete.
Defense attorneys are saying police had no idea what they were searching for when they went through the house. Bernardo is accused of the sex murders of 2 teenage girls.
The families of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French claim that their rights were being violated, that only the judge, jury, and court officials should be allowed to see or hear explicit videotape evidence involving vicious sexual assaults on their daughters. But the Supreme Court was not prepared to entertain their argument. The court simply refused to hear the case and, as usual, gave no reasons for its decision. But for the families who sought to limit their own public suffering in this case, the ruling means that the tapes that caused them so much anguish will be heard again later in this case without regard to their feelings.
Detective Constable Rich Sizik has been an investigator on the Green Ribbon Task Force since the day after Kristen French was abducted. As a member of the Bernardo house search team, Sizik told the jury that he seized a number of items that police believed linked Bernardo to the crime. Cardboard box staples found in fireplace ashes, numerous carpet samples, a stained patchwork quilt, basement steps with gouges in them. Constable Sizik testified that he constructed a 200-pound concrete block and tried to demonstrate how somebody might push it up the basement stairs and into a car. He shifted the block side to side to the passenger door of Bernardo's Nissan vehicle and put it inside. A video shot by police after they did their 3-month search showed a house that was ripped apart. Concrete floors drilled with jackhammers, drywall and wallboards removed, large pieces of carpet ripped up, and windows taken out. Pot lights were pulled down for closer examination. Sizik left the impression that every inch of that house was scoured for clues. One piece of evidence police didn't remove at the time was the electrical cord. The Crown says Bernardo used that electrical cord to strangle Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. Police removed that cord from the house more than 6 months later. Bernardo's lawyer, John Rosen, pointed out that when his personal property was removed from the house days after the search ended, the electrical cord wasn't taken, and Sizik agreed that it was still sitting in the basement when police went back in. 2 other experts from the Center of Forensic Sciences told the jury that the styrofoam and black paint in the concrete blocks used to encase Leslie Mahaffey could have come from the Bernardo house. The trial resumes Monday when Carla Homolka, Bernardo's ex-wife, takes the stand. She was there during the abductions and killings of both girls. She's expected to be grilled for weeks on what she knows about their murders.
And Patience by Guns N' Roses. Again, he hints at suicide and howls, "Car, he's coming to get me now. The Grim Reaper's coming. I'm too young to die." Detective Constable Richard Sizik is the officer in charge of all exhibits, including the audio tapes. Earlier, Sizik testified that it was physically possible for a lone male to move a concrete block up Bernardo's basement stairs. Sizik said he successfully experimented with a 215-pound concrete block, similar to the one that encased Leslie Mahaffey's torso. The court also heard about a mysterious 911 call that was made from the Bernardo home on August 10th, 1991. Emergency dispatcher Kathleen Skelton testified a woman reported that a patient was pulseless and not breathing. 4 minutes later, Skelton said the same woman called back to say she panicked and the person she requested assistance for was fine. The trial was adjourned until Monday when it enters its most dramatic phase. Carla Homolka will begin testifying against her ex-husband. It's the first time the couple will come face to face since she left him more than 2.5 years ago. Sue Scambatti, Global News, Toronto.
A phone call from Paul Bernardo's house in August of 1991 that someone had no pulse. The caller then phoned a few minutes later to say the person was fine. The court also heard about 2 videotapes Bernardo rented at the time teenager Kristen French was allegedly being held captive. Receipts show that Bernardo rented Angel Heart, a violent erotic film, and Criminal Law, a movie about a well-groomed serial killer named Martin Teal. At the time of his arrest, it was reported that Bernardo had legally changed his surname to Teal.
911 operator Kathleen Skelton testified that on August 10, 1991, she received a frantic call from Paul Bernardo's Port Dalhousie home. It was 3:30 in the morning, and a female caller said someone had stopped breathing and was without a pulse. Skelton sent police, fire, and ambulance, but 4 minutes later, the caller phoned back and said the person was fine. Skelton then called off the vehicles. The Crown says that during the summer of '91, Bernardo and Homolka drugged and assaulted a teenager known only as Jane Doe. He says, "I've always been a very bad bastard, very bad person." The court also heard about 2 movies Bernardo rented at the time the Crown alleges Kristen French was being held captive. Receipts show Bernardo rented Angel Heart, a violent erotic film. He also rented Criminal Law, a movie about a well-groomed serial killer named Martin Teal. Sometime after watching the movie, Bernardo legally changed his surname to Teal.
Or with someone else. Homolka, someone else. Houlihan, who was that? Homolka, Paul Bernardo. Homolka was asked how the 2 schoolgirls were killed. She said Paul strangled them with a black electrical cord. Houlihan, how do you know? Homolka, I was in the same room watching. Homolka said she was also responsible for the death of her sister Tammy and sexual offenses committed against Jane Doe. Both incidents were considered in Homolka's sentencing. The former Mrs. Bernardo told the court her lawyer got her the deal because she said, "I would cooperate fully with the authorities, be a Crown witness, and tell the truth." Justice Patrick Lesage stopped the court today to address the jury about Homolka's credibility. He said it is a natural inclination for one to lessen their own involvement and point the finger at another. Homolka told the court her fairy tale romance with the accused gradually turned sour 2 months after they met. She says he started to beat her and threaten her and talk about finding sex slaves. Homolka said she learned about the knockout drug halothane while she worked at 2 St. Catherine's veterinary clinics. When asked why she left the first clinic, she said, "I didn't like the way the vet was treating the animals." Homolka said Bernardo asked her to pose for Polaroid photographs, one showing her handcuffed, gagged, with a rope around her neck, and Bernardo holding a knife to her head. At this point, Homolka's parents and sister Lori left the courtroom. Homolka went on to say that Bernardo started using a dog choke collar on her and eventually a black electrical cord. When asked why she didn't tell anyone, Homolka said she was afraid of him, but that she still loved him and hoped he would change. Homolka said she was first drawn to Bernardo's magnetism and that he had a way with words. In fact, she says when she first met Bernardo at a Scarborough pet convention, she knew she was going to marry him. With more on Carla's first day, here's Pat.
Thanks, Tom. Well, it was the moment trial watchers were waiting for, the reunion of Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. And while they did glance at each other this morning and looked eye to eye, the rest of the day was spent stealing glances at each other. Carla Homolka appeared plain and wore little or no makeup. Most of the day, she looked straight ahead at Crown Prosecutor Ray Houlihan. During questioning, she was polite, well-prepared, and eager to answer. Bernardo stared at his ex-wife most of the day, while she would sneak quick looks at him while he was taking notes. Today, Homolka told the court that 1 pair of handcuffs seized from the Bernardo home were hers. She owned them before she met Paul Bernardo and used to wear them on her jacket. She said when she was younger, it was her dream to become a police officer. Homolka is being taken to court in a paddy wagon from the Metro West Detention Center. Spectators started lining up for the trial at 9 o'clock last night. Many wanted to see firsthand the couple's reunion.
There are no more tickets available to the public. There will be no reissuing of tickets.
With only 100 seats available for the public, more than 100 others were turned away. The court saw a number of cards and letters that Carla Homolka wrote Paul Bernardo early in their relationship. On them, she refers to herself as the little fantasy girl. She calls him the big bad businessman.
Today that people began lining up outside the court early last evening. The courtroom only holds 118 public seats. And by 2 a.m., there were well over 100 people in line. Even those who were turned away said they'd be back to try for a seat for Carla Homolka's later testimony. In anticipation of more lineups, police erected a series of barriers outside the courthouse this afternoon.
Her plea bargain and her role in the French and Mahaffey killings. She says, "My lawyer negotiated a plea resolution agreement with senior officials of the Attorney General's ministry that allowed me to plead guilty." Crown Attorney Houlihan asks her about the sentence. Homolka, 12 years total. "I would be a Crown witness and I would agree to tell the truth." Houlihan asks her if she shares complicity in the death of her sister Tammy. Homolka, "Yes, I did. I admitted responsibility." Houlihan then asks Homolka if she's been charged in the Jane Doe assault. "No, I haven't." Houlihan, "Did you commit criminal offenses regarding Jane Doe?" Homolka, "Yes, I have." Houlihan, "Do you expect to be prosecuted?" Homolka, "No. My lawyer has received notice from senior officials of the Attorney General's ministry that I won't be prosecuted for this offense." The deal also allows Homolka to apply for escorted day passes starting next month. There's no indication yet whether she will or won't. The deal's been controversial from the outset. Ken Murray, who quit representing Paul Bernardo, was unequivocal.
Crown may have made a deal with the devil. I didn't think it would go quite this far.
Everybody wears this. Everybody's going to make a statement.
And today, it's the plea agreement as much as her actual testimony generating attention.
I hope to get some insight into exactly what happened. And I feel that it's just going to be all let out because Carla has nothing to lose.
The Crown has suggested that even before Carla Homolka's deal, incriminating tapes were in the hands of Bernardo's former lawyer, Ken Murray. Those tapes were not turned over to the Crown until 15 months after Homolka had made her plea bargain.
A pale Carla Homolka, wearing a plain brown jacket and skirt, stepped into the witness box. As she identified him, she looked directly at her former husband, Paul Bernardo, then quickly looked away. A few minutes later, questioned by prosecutor Ray Houlihan, Carla Homolka spoke of schoolgirls Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Paul strangled them with a black electrical cord. I was in the same room watching. This was a long-anticipated reunion. Bernardo and Homolka had not seen each other for 2.5 years. Now, speaking at first hesitantly, but with increasing confidence, she told of the plea negotiations leading to her 12-year manslaughter sentence in the deaths of the 2 schoolgirls. The deal, she said, meant I would be a Crown witness and would agree to tell the truth. As the jury closely listened, she described a more or less normal Canadian childhood and teenage years until she met Bernardo. She was 17. The same night they met, she said, she and Bernardo were intimate for the first time. While Homolka testified, an impassive Bernardo scribbled notes. At first, Homolka said, Bernardo treated me like a princess, but within a few months, he started to exercise control over me and allegedly forced her into unwanted sex acts. The court saw 18 photographs taken in February 1988, only 4 months after they first met. In one, Homolka and Bernardo are having intercourse. He has a cord around her neck. Homolka said it was like he's choking me and he's holding a knife at my head. Other photos were also shown in which a naked Homolka is wearing handcuffs. Under questioning, Homolka painted a picture of suffering increasing mental and physical abuse. Asked by the prosecutor why she put up with it, Homolka said, he made me feel like I was totally dependent on him. She even bought a dog collar so Bernardo could put it round her neck when they were having sex. The judge has cautioned the jury about Carla Homolka's testimony. Mr. Justice Patrick Lesage said, you should remember she's involved in these crimes. It's a natural inclination to lessen one's own involvement and to increase the involvement or to point the finger at the other.
10 p.m. last night, the curious began lining up in front of 361 University Avenue, hoping to be one of just over 100 to get into courtroom 6-1. It's the first day of up to 2 weeks of testimony by Carla Homolka against her ex-husband, Paul Bernardo.
As a 19-year-old female, I feel that I'm just as affected by this as all the other young ladies, because it could have been me or my friends, and of course I want to be here. I want to see that guy go down. I don't care what it takes.
If you came after 2:45 a.m., you did not get in today. Those that did were anticipating a confrontation between the estranged couple.
She walked in, she was very, very timid, very shy. It was very unpredictable what actually was going to take place. I was looking for a confrontation between Paul and Carla.
Part of me was curiosity. I really wanted to see the reaction of Karla and Paul. It's been 2 years since they've seen each other. And I also wanted to see that justice is being served, but which I ask myself every day is, and it's not. No way.
What about those people who did not get in on the first day? Well, for Helena D'Agostini, a veteran of 4 visits to the trial so far, she brought a lawn chair and will stay overnight to get in tomorrow.
Badly, I want to see her face and his face when they meet each other after 2 years.
Whatever the motive, this scene is likely to repeat itself for the duration of Homolka's testimony. In anticipation of this, for the first time, police have erected barricades.
In just 2 years, Carla Homolka went from being a blushing bride to a convicted killer, shocking a Toronto courtroom when she calmly admitted she was guilty of murder in the sex slayings of teenagers Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. In the home she shared with her then-husband, Paul Bernardo, Homolka testified. Paul strangled them with a black electrical cord. Crown Prosecutor Ray Houlihan asked, "How do you know?" Homolka, "I was in the same room watching." Houlihan continued, "Who confined Leslie Mahaffey, sexually assaulted her, and disposed of the body?" To all 3 questions, Homolka replied, "Both Paul and I did." Who kidnapped, confined, and sexually assaulted Kristen French and disposed of her body? Homolka, "Both Paul and I did." Finally, Houlihan asked, "Who destroyed the evidence?" Again, Homolka replied, "Both Paul and I did." The Homolka family, Sister Lori on the left, Mother Dorothy, and Father Carl came to court to support their daughter. They heard Karla describe how Bernardo treated her like a princess, like I was the only girl in the world. He just totally swept me off my feet. But the fairy tale turned sour. Homolka testified Bernardo began beating her within months of their courtship. She testified that at 17, she became his sex slave, performing sex the way he wanted it, even using a dog's choke collar during intercourse. It was tight, she said. Sometimes I had to ask him to let up because I couldn't breathe. Homolka says Bernardo convinced her to pose for sexually explicit color photographs. In one, the couple is photographed having sex. A cord is around her neck. Bernardo is holding a knife to her head. Over and over again, the Crown asks why she stayed with Bernardo for all those years. He's got this magnetism about him, she said. I was afraid of him, but I still loved him.
She says that she was motivated by her actions to please Paul Bernardo, and that he wanted her to do certain things, and she did what he wanted her to do. But we have to also ask ourselves, did she enjoy it as well?
From the prisoner's box, Paul Bernardo stared at his ex-wife, sometimes laughing at the evidence, the cards and the love letter she sent him. Karla at first refused to look at the man she said charmed and controlled her. In the end, it's her word against his, and the jury will have to decide who they believe.
In law, this is known as a vetrovec warning. It's incumbent on the judge when an accomplice takes the stand to warn the jury to exercise extreme caution when they assess that witness's credibility, because that witness has the taint of complicity, may have an incentive to lie. So it's not unusual that he instructed the jury. What is unusual is that he did it at the beginning of her testimony and not at the end of the case when he charges the jury on the relevant law.
As a point of law, is a deal a deal?
In most cases, a deal by definition cannot be rescinded. Why would anyone enter into immunity deals if they could be rescinded? Now, it may be regrettable in this case, but because it has senior Crown approval, it would be an abusive process to turn back the clock and try to re-prosecute her.
We know that the Crown spent a great deal of time working with Carla Homolka, preparing her for today. Was that evident in any way in her testimony?
Most definitely. She appeared as one of the most well-prepared witnesses I've seen in a criminal trial. Whether or not she's being scripted or coached will be a matter to be determined in cross-examination, but she was very coherent and well-prepared.
And did she appear nervous at any point at all during the day?
No, quite frankly, she gave her testimony in a very straightforward manner.
Spring break in Florida. Homolka said 1 month after Tammy's death, Bernardo brought home an unidentified girl and told Homolka to stay upstairs. It was then that she decided she didn't love him and didn't want to marry him. Homolka is serving a 12-year prison sentence in exchange for her testimony. Bernardo is being tried in the murders of teenagers Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. Leslie Mahaffey cried throughout the Homolka testimony. Homolka, speaking in a flat tone and sometimes shaking, told the court that Mahaffey was blindfolded while she and her ex-husband sexually assaulted her. She said that after the sexual assault, Bernardo began questioning Mahaffey to see if she could identify him. Homolka said Bernardo began beating the girl, who kept promising not to tell. She said that at one point, Mahaffey cried out that she wanted to go home and see her little brother again.
Can you imagine being her parents, having to hear that, you know, and just the thought of, you know, how many times it went through their mind, like how many times they shouldn't have worried about her curfew, right? That's the thing that keeps getting me. They're having to hear all this in court, her last words, wanting to go home to see her little brother, being blindfolded, obviously handcuffed because there's no fingerprints there. I can't even imagine.
It's heartbreaking.
It's you know, till this day, her family, I just can't. It's sad, man. It's so sad.
I know, I'm sitting over here bawling my eyes out.
I know. I mean, it's so sad. And this to us may have happened a decade or two ago, whatever, a couple of decades ago, but to her parents,
They live it every day.
every day. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Again, Homolka said that Bernardo finally decided to kill the teenager. She said that she asked him to reconsider, but he wouldn't. Homolka said that she gave Mahaffey a sleeping pill and a teddy bear to hug just before Bernardo strangled the unconscious girl with a black electrical cord. Earlier today, Homolka was questioned closely by the Crown about her behavior on a video shot just 2 weeks after the death of her younger sister, Tammy. In the tape, which had previously been shown to jurors, Homolka is seen having sex with Bernardo while playing the role of her dead sister. At one point on the video, Homolka says she felt happy and proud when she watched Bernardo take Tammy's virginity. When asked why she would make such a statement, Homolka replied that she was trying to make the video good for Bernardo, that she was trying to please him. Yesterday, Homolka testified that she helped Bernardo drug and sexually assault Tammy on Christmas Eve.
Today, Carla Homolka's description of the murder of Leslie Mahaffey, her version of who killed the teenager and how. 24 of horror for 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey. 24 hours held captive in the Bernardo home. Carla Homolka testified Bernardo went out the night of June 14, 1991. He was carrying a knife, some rope, and a nylon stocking, just in case he had the chance to rape or kidnap, she said. She testified that early that morning he returned with a girl named Leslie. Homolka was sleeping upstairs in the master bedroom at the time. I didn't know if he had kidnapped a girl or picked up a girl in the bar, so I went back to sleep. He came up some hours later and he told me he had kidnapped a girl and he was pleased with her and he raped her. She was downstairs in the guest bedroom. He told me to stay upstairs and be quiet. Homolka testified she remained upstairs until 6 o'clock that evening. She said she was reading during that time. I was concerned that I hadn't heard from Paul in a while. I was also concerned because there was a phone in the guest bedroom. I was concerned the girl down there would gain access to the phone. Later, Homolka said, Bernardo brought Mahaffey upstairs, where the three of them engaged in sexual acts. Leslie seemed intoxicated, and she also seemed like she was off in some other place in her mind. Paul asked her how old she was. Did she like school? She said she liked to be with her friends. She talked about her little brother. She said she was close to him and wanted to see him again. Then, in a quavering voice and fighting back tears, Homolka described Mahaffey's murder. She said Mahaffey promised never to tell if Bernardo let her go. He thought she was lying. He started to beat her on her back and shoulders. She was crying. She was cringing. She said she'd tell her family she was with a friend. Leslie's mother leaned forward in her seat in the courtroom and sobbed violently. Homolka continued. Paul said she had to be killed. I asked him to reconsider. He said, would you rather I went to jail for 25 years and do you want to go to jail? Then a clearly upset Homolka said, I asked if we could at least give her a sleeping pill before she was killed, because I didn't want her to feel any pain. With that, Debbie Mahaffey sobbed and blurted out what sounded like, how kind of you. Crown Attorney Ray Houlihan went on, asking how Leslie reacted. She was lying on the floor, Homolka said, and she was scared, and I gave her a stuffed animal. I told her it's okay, and she fell asleep. What was that stuffed animal? Houlihan asked. It was Bunky, Homolka answered in a tiny voice, the white teddy bear Paul had given me for our first Christmas together. Then Homolka said Paul got a black electrical cord from the basement. He knelt over Mahaffey's body and strangled her. The couple was married on the same day Leslie Mahaffey's body parts were found. Homolka testified she didn't want to marry Bernardo, but did it anyway, despite what the couple had done just 2 weeks earlier. Homolka also described how Leslie Mahaffey's body was dismembered and encased in concrete. She testified that Paul Bernardo did that she told him she couldn't do it because it would have made her sick. Bill?
Murderer Paul Bernardo told a packed courtroom about another murder that almost happened. But as Carla Homolka told the court, her then-husband's plans to rape and kill a local bartender were foiled when guests unexpectedly stopped by their St. Catharines, Ontario home. And in another turn of events, Homolka told the court how her bookkeeper husband maintained a lavish lifestyle. Carla Homolka said that she, Bernardo, and another friend would smuggle cigarettes from the U.S. about 5 times a week. Paul Bernardo is on trial right now for the sex, tortures, and murders of schoolgirls Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. His ex-wife is expected to wrap up her testimony by the middle of this week.
And Carla Homolka testified that Kristen French became defiant on the last day of her captivity. Homolka said that Bernardo was hitting her, but she wasn't crying. Homolka said that Kristen French had this look on her face as if she was totally sick of the situation. And when she did that, Bernardo said he was going to kill her. Nancy.
Ron, also there was testimony heard today about stalking other potential victims. What did Homolka say about that?
A chilling story earlier today, Nancy. Homolka said that Paul Bernardo stalked a woman who worked at a St. Catharines restaurant, and that he followed her home so he could find out where she lived. He would go back at the nighttime to watch her undress through the window. On one occasion, he videotaped her. That videotape was actually shown in court today. She said that he had planned to, he wanted to go back, break into the house, rape the woman, and murder her. On a weekend, some friends came to visit Bernardo, and he was terribly upset, Homolka said, because that was the night he had planned to commit those crimes.
What they went through today was the abduction and up to the final hours of Kristen French. We haven't gotten to her murder yet. But what we did hear was that Carla Homolka testified that the plan was to abduct a girl who went to Holy Cross High School. She said when Bernardo saw Kristen walking down the street, he pulled into the parking lot of the Grace Lutheran Church. Homolka said her job was to yell out the window that she needed directions, and when Kristen was standing at the open door, Bernardo came around the other side and pushed her in. Homolka said Kristen was stabbed in the left shoulder as she was pushed in the car. And once inside, she was warned by Bernardo that he had a knife and that he would use it. She said when Kristen was in the car that Homolka grabbed her hair. She was told to be quiet, that she didn't scream, that she whimpered. And she also testified that they drove out of the church parking lot with at the most direct route to Port Dalhousie and was brought to the Bayview Drive house. Homolka said her role was to hide the phones, lock the doors, close the blinds, that Bernardo brought Kristen upstairs while Homolka stayed downstairs, and she was afraid at that point that the police would come in because she feared that someone saw them at the church. Now, when Homolka did go upstairs to the master bedroom, she saw Kristen crying. She was frightened frightened. She was lying on the floor. She was forced to perform degrading sex acts with Bernardo and Homolka, sex acts that were videotaped. She said that Bernardo tormented Kristen by putting a knife within her reach and then telling her to grab it and stab him. Now, she was told that she would eventually be released if she went along with what he wanted her to do. Bernardo did go out twice, but the first time he went to McDonald's Pizza in St. Catharines, he gave Homolka a rubber mallet. He tied Kristen up, told Homolka to use the mallet if she gave him any trouble. Now, Homolka was asked why she didn't let her go. She said she was scared because she was so involved, that she pictured Paul coming in and seeing the two of them coming down the stairs and freaking and killing them.
The video was shot early this morning at the Metro West Detention Center, where Carla Homolka is being held in custody. It shows a handcuffed Homolka being escorted to the paddy wagon by 2 prison guards. In court today, Homolka spoke of Thursday, April 16th, 92, the day Kristen French was kidnapped. She told the court they drove past Holy Cross Secondary School and spotted Kristen French walking home. Seconds before Kristen was kidnapped, Homolka said, "He was very, very excited. I just felt dead inside." Homolka said she asked Kristen for directions. When the 15-year-old schoolgirl walked to the car, Homolka opened the door and pulled out a map. She said Bernardo, holding a knife, came up behind Kristen and said, "You're coming with us." Homolka said Kristen fought back but did not scream. She called him a bastard and he pushed her into the car. I quickly grabbed her hair to hold her down. Homolka said Kristen and Bernardo spent several hours in the master bedroom before she was called to join them. She said Kristen was given alcohol and later sleeping pills. Later, Kristen watched a plea from her father. Homolka, "I was numb. I was just waiting for the police to come to the house. I couldn't believe it." She was asked why she didn't let Kristen go when just the two of them were left in the house. Homolka, "I was too afraid of what Paul would do, also because I helped kidnap her, confine her, and sexually assault her." Homolka also said that Bernardo put his knife on the floor and dared Kristen to use it on him and escape, but the schoolgirl didn't try. Homolka also said that because the 15-year-old wasn't blindfolded, she knew Kristen was going to be killed. Earlier today, the court heard of another young woman who was stalked by Bernardo. Homolka said she worked in this St. Catherine's restaurant called Red Hot Chili Pepper and that Bernardo had followed her home several times. She said he planned to break into her house, rape her, and kill her. However, Bernardo's friends paid him a surprise visit one night, the night he was planning the attack. Carla Homolka was also asked how they maintained their lifestyle since Bernardo was unemployed. Well, she said Bernardo and his good friend used to smuggle cigarettes from Buffalo at least 5 times a week.
Well, that's all the clips I got together for us tonight, just an hour's worth, but I thought they were very interesting. There was a lot to learn in them, really. So the name of that was Criminal Law, and that's where he got the name from, the serial killer that was in there. Have you ever watched that movie, Dave?
I've never heard of that one before.
I hadn't either. It looks like Kevin Bacon was probably, he was either, because it showed a clip on him, he was either playing the serial killer or possibly the attorney, but I'm going to have to check it out because obviously Paul and Carla idolizes this guy. Yeah. Pretty sickening.
I was waiting for that one clip, but I didn't hear it. The one I was telling you about last night, where, what the heck was it? Carla gave her sister away for a Christmas present as a for a virgin. But the only thing is, I found a thing. What was it, in June, that they had given her powdered Valium, and he had raped her then.
Yeah, I know. So I haven't. Yeah, I've got that set up for I think tomorrow night or the next night. I mean, I know we're going to have at least 2 more parts of this case.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Because there's just no way. I mean, these, like Matt said earlier, this is very good reporting on this case that these media outlets have given, and a lot of the things we're hearing in these reports, you really don't hear today. Yeah, when you hear this case being discussed, a lot of it. Like, for example, last night, when we heard that Paul made her eat his feces,
Right.
and drink his urine and all this kind of stuff. I hadn't ever heard that before. It just odd things, that because media is very censored today, very much, and you just don't hear all of the details that you would have heard. Now, even when I read that book, that wasn't in there, so that was kind of crazy. Megan, thank you for coming tonight. And yeah, this is a very deep and crazy, horrific case. Knowing that she is out makes me disgusted. Plus, yes, I mean, I've got it starred up here, but somebody mentioned here, he would have gotten the death penalty probably. Absolutely. Not only is he a serial killer and sexual sadist and all this thing? These girls were underage, right? These 3 girls were underage, every one of them. All the murders, that they know of. There's more. I feel there's many more. Thank you so much, Taco. I appreciate that. The sickest part is the rape and death and sacrifice of her own sister. All equal. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's just no words. I can't even imagine being those parents having to sit through that trial while Carla is explaining exactly what they did. She even gave her a sleeping pill so she wouldn't hurt. A stuffed animal, a teddy bear to hold on to as she died. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around having to hear that, about your 14-year-old daughter. It's incomprehensible, really. One of the stars was, how could she only get 12 years for all of what she did? Couldn't the judge say no to the deal she made? I'm not sure. Canadian law.
Well, they could have went, excuse me, like I said yesterday, they could have went 12 years to life. But instead they just said 12 years.
Right. So they didn't even give, it was just going to be 12 years straight up.
Yeah.
But she did get a chance of parole. I heard that.
Yeah.
But obviously they denied it. If she even went for it, they denied it. Because she did spend the entire 12 years, as she should have. Should have spent a hell of a lot more than that.
I imagine there would have been a big backlash if she wouldn't have spent the full 12.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how her family could have supported her. I don't either. I can't get it either. We talked about that last night. Like, I get unconditional love. I get that. But my God, that's not just one of your children. That's 2 of your children. And the unspeakable things that she did to the younger sister, I can't understand it either. Her parents as well as her sister. Like, you'll see her sister supporting her. And I think Tammy was the youngest sister, wasn't she, Dave? I believe she was the youngest one, yeah. So the middle sister that was closer to Carla's age was there at all the courts supporting Carla. Like, how? If that was my sister, I would have beat her ass, I would have never had anything to do with her. And I would have questioned why my parents were having anything to do with her. There again, she was pulling off the whole battered, abused, Stockholm syndrome, all this other stuff. But I can maybe buy that to a tiny point, but not to a point to where she done any of these crimes. Now, that's why she continued to stay with him, but she acted out. She enticed. The videotape showed that she was, it was even said a lot of times that she was having more fun and giddier than Paul was.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and breaking wine bottles off in these teenage girls, dismembering, all the things, and she was all about it. So, yeah, I can't, even with Stockholm syndrome and the battered and abused woman syndrome, no, definitely not. It wouldn't get to that point. That is absolute psychopath. Absolutely. Was Carla the one who had a Minnie Mouse watch from a victim? I'm not sure, but probably, because Carla did collect all things Disney and Barbie dolls, and she always wanted to be a Disney princess. And when she met Paul, she said he was her Prince Charming. Huh. Yeah, I think he would have definitely gotten the death penalty here without a doubt.
Well, hopefully now that he's in minimum security, that somebody will find him in his cell.
True, very true. And he's only been there a little while. And yeah, I'm sure he's in Gen Pop. And depending on what area he's in, I don't know what area he's in, but he done so much for so long. There is a likely that he's locked up with one of his victims' family. It's a possibility. So, I'm just saying. Let's see. Well, Canada doesn't have the death penalty. I don't know. So, that's a personal preference. Some people believe in the death penalty. Some people don't. I personally do. I do think there needs to be a death penalty. Yes, I do. I do not believe that some people, such as Paul, deserves to live his life with free medical care, 3 meals a day, heating and cooling. No, he doesn't deserve that. He took everything away from those kids, and not only those kids, their families. So, yeah, I don't think he deserves it at all. But everybody's different, whether they support the death penalty or not. I do. Do you, Dave? I don't know. I don't think I've ever asked you that. I know Nelly does.
It's like the death penalty, the way it works in the States, they could be there, on death row for 60 years in some places. And they'll die of cancer or whatever, before they get sentenced to death.
Yeah.
And then, like, one of the biggest things is that they were talking about the cost of what it costs to put somebody to death. And then they were talking about they couldn't get the right medications anymore either to put people to death. So what do you do with all that?
Well, in South Carolina, honestly, they have started back the firing squad. There was absolutely. There was they couldn't get the lethal injection medication. And I don't think I know no one uses the chair anymore, right?
No.
But they couldn't get the lethal injection and they were running low on it. Guy's time was up. They were trying to get it overturned, blah, blah, blah. It didn't happen. And so, firing squad took him out.
Wow.
Now, at the very end, they were able to get a hold of some new lethal injection medication. And so they gave the inmate a choice, and he had to choose himself, firing squad or I think it was lethal injection. It could have been the chair. Whichever it was, he did choose firing squad, and that has not been that long ago. I'm talking about within the last year. He was taken out by firing squad. Yes. So I know South Carolina has the firing squad back. And I'm sure other states do as well, but I know they do. So you could go, you can go that route, with the states. But at the same time, as you said, with all the appeals and all, they have to exhaust all these appeals if they get the death penalty. There needs to be some sort of cap on the appeal process.
That's right, yeah.
Because they sit on death row for 20, 30 years before these appeals exhaust. Like Darlie Routier, she has exhausted all of her appeals, and she is literally waiting on her death warrant right now because she has exhausted them.
People that were actually innocent too, that were on death row.
No, that's horrific. If there's any sort of reasonable doubt, then I think possibly new eyes, retrial. I don't know, something. Because you're right, there is some people that are.
Yeah, and it's like people in there for 25 years.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's any sort of reasonable doubt, I don't think that the life the death penalty even should be put on the table if there's any sort of possible reasonable doubt. Honestly, just go with first degree murder. Had that have been done with Casey Anthony, that witch wouldn't be walking today. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
I'm just saying, if there's any inkling, of it not happening, or their doubts or whatever, just don't even put that charge on the table. Just don't even put it there. Let's just go with life, But I mean, it's not like we can change anything, but it does need to be redone, in my opinion, totally. Sleeping pill given to subdue, so it wouldn't be hard work. Yeah, and giving her a teddy bear to hold onto as they choke the life out of her. I can't even imagine listening to that. And if that was my child, I can't even hardly listen to it, and it being someone I don't even know. And it was to incapacitate her. Yeah. They said that once a deal is given, it's not rescinded, because no one would take deals if they can't trust that they won't be taken away. I don't know the exact law about it, though. Yeah, Dave is from Canada, so he pretty much helped us on those answers. I think they both would have gotten the death penalty here, absolutely. So do I. I know they would have, really. In many cases, I support the death penalty. We will never have it here. Yeah. Yeah, firing squad. Yeah, that is a thing now. They brought it back. And they were talking about public hanging. That's a thing, or it used to be a thing. Who knows? It could, if the firing squad can come back, it's a possibility. I don't believe in the death penalty, because sometimes yeah, that's true. And an injustice anywhere is an injustice. I agree. I agree with the there's many people on death row that is innocent. That's true. And there is where they need to be very, very careful about who is charged with what the charge they're handing down is. Because if it's the death penalty and that's what you're being charged with, and it's acquitted, or there's any kind of reasonable doubt, it's done. But if not, it's done again. And you very well, the innocent people, it's bad. But surely just don't hand the damn charge if there's any sort of doubt whatsoever. Now, when you got Karla and Paul with these damn videotapes, there's no doubt there, right? I mean, they're literally recorded.
You'll have like Chris Watts there get 5 death penalties, and he's going to die in jail instead of getting put to death.
To be very honest, had Chris have been handed the death penalty, which, hey, go ahead, for all I care. I don't care. But I'm just saying, had he have been handed down the death penalty and it didn't go to just life, I believe he could have been another Casey Anthony.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'm just saying, because there's reasonable doubt there. If he had stuck with that very first story, they couldn't have proved it not facts. They just couldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's like, no, there's no way. And her friends, her mom and dad, everybody, there's no way she would. It wouldn't matter. It has to be proved beyond any reasonable doubt. And it couldn't have been. It was circumstantial until Chris told, what he did. But I'm just saying, had he have been handed that and stuck with that very first story, I think he would have been acquitted, or a lesser charge or something.
Well, at least they would have had some kind of a court case, though.
Yeah, I mean, something.
Yeah, because the way it is with no trial, it's like he just admitted to doing anything and everything just so that they wouldn't put him to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So
Right. Okay, well, I think Nelly fell asleep. Bless her heart. She actually was asleep when we started, and she's like, "Oh
Yep.
shit." But yeah, thank you, Tracy, for being a member of Team Unjustified for 3 months. We appreciate that, and also we'd really appreciate a thumbs up or even a thumbs down. Either one, we really would. I don't say that a lot. I forget about saying it. I don't like to aggravate people about it, but I would appreciate it. It does help the channel, and seeing that we've had to pretty much hide everything we got, our channel's kind of struggling right now on the grade scale. Dave brought that to my attention earlier because we had to hide everything, right? Well, not hide it, but just move it around.
Yeah, getting falsely reported again.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, you just look at the views you get on different cases. They just don't, it's like there's not really any interest. But I get that because my channel's built around the Watts case. But at the same time, other cases need to be talked about and heard as well. And they are just as interesting, to be quite honest. They really are. I bet Chris wishes. Well, Cindy did call Jose Baez, however you pronounce his name. She did call him to represent Chris, and he just never got back with her. He just never called her back. She also contacted and tried to get Scott Reish, the YouTuber. She tried to get him too. And I forgot how much it was he wanted up front. I want to say $250,000 retainer that he asked for straight up front. And Cindy's like, there's no way. I mean, there's just no way I have $250,000, But yeah, she did contact a few attorneys, but Jose was one of them. Anyway, okay, guys, Dave, thank you for sticking with it. I hope y'all are not getting bored with this case. There's only, I promise, at most 2 more parts to it, but you just can't cover it all in 1 or 2. You just can't. And thank all the moderators for being here and everybody that showed up for us tonight. Go back. I got the playlist, and it is linked in the description box below. So if you need to catch up on this case or whatever, it's all there. And we'll be back tomorrow night with part 3. I can't promise yet what time, but we're going to try like hell to get going earlier. So, yeah, I mean, it just didn't work out tonight. But anyway. Okay, guys. Well, I hope everybody has a good night. Thank you all for being with us. Catch the replays if you need to refresh yourself on this case a little more. And until tomorrow night, y'all have a great night.
Thank you so much for watching, and do not forget